Mental health is a real thing. Just like how we are desensitized to the rampant obesity, we are desensitized to the rampant mental obesity. And I call it mental obesity because it does seem as if a big part of the breakdown with mental health has to do with an overload of consideration, an overload of information. I'm not saying that that is the end all be all. Some people can handle the burden, those burdens better than others, and I think a lot of people aren't handling it well. I don't buy that people are happy. I don't buy that when they smile and laugh and they're all like, ha ha, he, that's who they are. Because time and time again, those kinds of cheery, sweet, cinnamony kind of people, when you get down to it, they have major heartbreak, major pain weighing on them. And they will break down and cry and tell you about it quicker than anybody that is normal. You better believe that craziness is probably proportionate to their sadness, to the pain. And sometimes, we try to laugh through the pain. We try to smile through the pain. And this world would have us believe that to be sad, to acknowledge what troubles you, is a weakness. But I think that the weakness comes when we just sweep all this shit under the rug, under the emotional, psychological rug. We want to act like it's not there. We want to act like we're not bothered. And I have to admit, a lot of what we're bothered by is also bullshit. I think a lot of our pain and anguish comes from the fact that we can't acknowledge how fucking spoiled we are. So the conclusion then that people have is, oh, you're saying that I can't complain then my pain isn't valid. It's not that your pain is not valid. It's that your ass ain't got no fucking perspective though. You don't realize how good you have it, and that enables you to chronically complain, to act like you are this chronic victim of everything, that you haven't made the decisions you've made. I gotta admit that is a duality to this, alright? I'm not saying it's so simple as that. It's not so simple that you are 100% the cause and the reason for everything that pains you in your life, everything that burdens you. You might not even be the predominant cause. I do not discount all of the villains that happen to be in our life. All the people that make it so fucking hard to be a good person, to be a loving person, a considerate, respectful person. There's a lot of people who I like to look at it like they are in their own little singular hell. But those flames, they are burning them and torturing them so much that they have to reach out. They gotta reach out and touch somebody's hand and hurt you to make this world a worser place. Yes, I said worser. If it can. It's contagious, man. Misery loves company. We want to bring other people down. And then what happens? You become complicit in that. You start doing the same fucking thing. But not only that, you then sort of point to them when somebody points to you. We always try to deflect. It's like, oh, well, they're the reason for that. They are. A lot of people are the reason for how shitty you might be, but that doesn't justify you continuing carrying that torch that they passed on to you. You don't have to, and it's hard, but that's where the fight comes in. That's where, and part of that fight, by the way, I realized like a huge aspect to becoming better and to trying to ensure that you remain better is accepting the fact that you're going to take damage, that you're going to have conflict. We get so comfortable and we get so used to not having conflict or being able to decide when we want to engage in conflict. But I spoke about this before. That's why that fighter's attitude is so precious and dope to me. It's acknowledging that I'm gonna get fucked up. I'm gonna get engaged with conflict. It's gonna happen. But it's how I decide to handle it. It's the kind of fight that I'm bringing to the table. And I think it's just a matter of trial and error, man. Some people perhaps they're going to be better at it than others. Some people are going to have perfect records when it comes to the conflict, so to speak. I know a couple of people who tend to, most of the time, you can say 98% of the fucking time, they're in the right. They're in the fucking right. So they are winning, so to speak. But it still damages them. And I'll speak for myself. Even one misconception, and I understand where this misconception comes from, due to the everyday normal person that's guided by mindlessness. They fucking ruin everything, and then so they set this precedent, and people presume that everyone else is like this. But one misconception is that a person such as myself relishes winning conflict. I relish just showing how wrong you are. Man, oh man, if I never had to fucking fight another person conversationally, I feel like I'd be okay. It sounds like heaven to me. It sounds great, like heaven on earth, to not have to engage with that kind of drama and conflict with people. That needless tension that comes from the difficulty, the lack of self-awareness on someone else's part, because I continually aspire to harness those qualities, those virtues. And so when I do win, quote unquote, in a conversational fight, it's like I feel like I got my ass kicked even if I do win. It takes so much energy. It takes so much fucking energy to be a patient person in the face of someone who's not patient, to be a reasonable person in the wake of somebody who's highly unreasonable. It is painful. It's painful to be the bigger person, let's say. It's not about better. I don't give a fuck about the scoreboard. All right? It's not about winning. It is about winning, right? But it's not about me beating you. It's about us beating this divisive behavior. It's about us being better than ourselves. It really is. That is all this human shit is about. Or that's not all it's about. I'm sorry. It's just so much of what matters to us and what we pride ourselves on in terms of our humanity. What we pride ourselves on with our humanity is us being superior to our inclinations that are destructive. It's us being sophisticated, and despite the fact that, one example I always use is, we act like we're so, we're so sophisticated. We're so, I'm such a debutante of a human, but then sitting here, then you go to the table in the restaurant with your ascot with the bloody steak in front of you, this bloody piece of cow muscle. And I'm not criticizing you for eating meat. What I'm saying is, motherfucker, remember when you eating that bloody piece of muscle or that bloody organ, I hope that reminds you how much of a fucking animal you are. But the thing is, we don't go about it the way that the fucking lion does, the way that the hyenas, the jackals do. We're not up there eating it with our hands with blood all over our face. We're like, we got classical music playing and we're cutting it. It's delicious. That's because we're trying to comport ourselves in this particular kind of way that is, again, that word sophisticated to me is what it hits the nail on the head and encapsulates it. That needs to be carried forward to the way that we interact with each other. We tend to be okay with not being so sophisticated when it comes to the conflict we have with each other. We're all right with being so out of line, and it's because it's entertaining too. A part of it is that we're purposely, consciously participating in the, hey, no, because blah, 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 and this and that and that. Because it feels good to do that. It feels good to fight in a chaotic, uncontrolled way. Yeah? But a lot of things that feel good aren't necessarily the best thing for us to be doing. It's not sustainable for our humanity. It's for our mental health. It all goes back to our mental health. Is it benefiting our mental? It feels good to do a lot of things. And a lot of things are destructive to our system. Obviously, if it was prudent and practical, people would get drunk every day. But there's consequences for that. It feels really good at the time, but then it ends up hurting you. And so it's just like when you're like talking shit, just verbal diarrhea. It feels good, but it actually hurts you. It hurts your bonds. It hurts your ability to communicate. It only furthers the lack of progress. It only furthers your inability to articulate and to connect. It's not doing you any fucking favors. And so it's not doing us any favors with our bonds, with our relationships to do that. It's not doing us any favors with our mental health. My new thing, what I'm going to be trying to be doing now, I really want my perfect way of being at this moment for what I'm trying to accomplish when it comes to social interaction. I don't want nothing to do with any kind of argument, with any kind of conversation. If I have to fight you, if I have to try to penetrate your defenses, because I think that if everybody adhered to that kind of standard and that kind of social pressure where you weren't tolerated for one more moment when you get off the rails, when you just start talking out of your ass, people, I think, would have no choice. There would be two choices. Either they would have no choice but to rise to the occasion, just like what people do when it comes to the standards in the workplace, the standards that are involved in romantic attraction. What are people doing more than ever? They're trying to look their best. They're trying to get super healthy. For what? Not because they want to feel really good and they want to have a good quality of life. Those are wonderful side effects. But what they ultimately really truly want is just to amplify their looks, because they understand that to get who the best of the best when it comes to romance, they need to look really good. And they're trying to reach that particular kind of standard, right? And so we need to have that same thing when it comes to conversation. But there's no standards that have been established. And I think that it's to our detriment. And I think that it's very short-sighted, because one of the most beautiful and fulfilling parts to this life, one of the most wonderful activities that there is a conversation with transparency and vulnerability and authenticity, emotional nakedness, these things. It feels like after you're done, like you've just ate a full course meal and you leave satisfied. You leave feeling nourished. Oftentimes, many times, you leave feeling inspired. And it's that spiritual connection that we're always looking for. It's that intimacy, that intangible intimacy that is missing in so many of our lives, that we try to get through people admiring us physically, that we try to acquire through, hey, look, sex is a beautiful fucking thing. Fuck, right? But you need multiple ingredients, not just sex, not just looking good, but you also need to connect with people in such a way that it feels real, that it feels genuine, that it feels deep, that it feels deeper than just the shallow bullshit that we tend to cover in our conversation. You know? What do we want? Do we want to make this thing as awesome as it possibly can be? I know you do. I just think what prevents us from really emphasizing this and putting all of our attention to this part is, for one, what we're used to. No, and there's nobody really preaching this and focusing on this and only this. There's a couple of people. But I think a huge part to this is people just don't believe it. They don't believe that conversation is that powerful. Just like in the past, people didn't believe. I remember when I'd have a talk with a lot of people about healthy eating. Now more than ever, people are starting to get it. But I remember, like, let's say just fucking 10 years ago, talking with people about changing the diet, about how much better it can make you feel. Nobody fucking believed me. When I would say, things like when I eat wheat, it makes me sick. People don't believe me. They think, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, it's just in your head. Like, well, no, I don't think it's in my head. I've many times. This is before gluten-free, by the way. This is before that terminology, those words, gluten-free. This is before I even knew what that was. I just knew that when I ate wheat, it made me feel like shit. And I would still do it because I was addicted to cookies, to these cookies, the Pillsbury cookies, which not only have wheat, but have trans fat and all this other bullshit in them. And they're just pure sugar. But every time I'd eat a wheat product, I'd have this inflammation. I would have this lethargy. And I would bring it up to people and they'd be like, no, they're just, they're skeptical. They think you're full of shit. They think that it's just placebo. And I get the skepticism. I'm all about being skeptical. But eventually, when I do it and then don't do it and don't do it, do it, then don't do it, and I keep seeing these results, bad things happen when I eat it, bad things don't happen when I don't eat it. I think there's a correlation. And it's the same thing with conversation. I'm trying to preach to y'all, man. I'm trying to tell you that when you care about how you talk with each other, something beautiful and inspirational and spiritual occurs. Okay? Believe that shit. Believe that. Alright? And all that to say that. How long have I been talking? Okay. Well, peace out, y'all. I just wanted to get that off my chest. And blessings on top of blessings for you. Yeah?